Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for making time to join our Power User Training webinar today. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Esther, and I will be the host for today's session. So I'm a Client Success Manager here at WorkBuzz. Professionally, I have over 6 years of experience in client success, as well as management consulting. I've got also a background in organizational psychology. So very excited to be in the space of employee engagement with WorkBuzz and very excited to be walking you through the admin side of our platform today. So just to give you an idea of what to expect from today's session, let me just quickly share our agenda over here. So first things first, what we'll be doing is we'll be covering how to add your departments as well as your demographics. Then we'll look into how you can upload employees effectively onto the system, how you can edit and amend them as needed. Then what we'll do is we'll look into how to launch an engagement survey on the platform. So we'll look into things like how you can edit questions, what are the different types of questions that we have, and where you can find our templated questions as well. I will also be covering briefly on how you can run an on-demand poll on this system. At the end of the session, what we'll do is we'll open the floor for Q&A. But if you have any questions along the way, feel free to use the Q&A button on Zoom, and one of my team members will be able to respond to your queries accordingly. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. Let me just quickly switch my screen over here. Right, so as power users, you should already have access to the admin platform, but if this is your first time or you don't already have access, feel free to reach out to your client success manager to get this set up for you. But once you have access, what you want to do is go to admin.workbuzz.com, and you can either log in with single sign-on or you can log in with your email address and password. If you're accessing the platform for the first time, or if you don't remember your password, what you can do is click on the forgotten password over here and then reset accordingly. And once you've done that, just click continue. And that should bring you into the admin page. Okay, give me a second. And apologies, my network is a little bit funny today, but there you go. So first thing you'll be met with on the page is your company settings page over here. Now you can edit these details at any point, but first thing you can do is to edit your company name. It's important that you get this right because it will put through your survey into your email invitations as well as any reports that are generated. And once you've done that, you can move on to your company logo. Once again, this will pull through into your email, into your reports, as well as the survey when it is live. Just one little thing to note is that there is a size limit for the logo, as you can see here on the screen. So if you're having any troubles uploading this, again, feel free to reach out to your client success manager for additional support. Once you're happy with that, you can move on to your company brand color. So if you would like your survey to look a little bit more on brand with your company, you can always tweak the company brand colors over here. And again, this will pull through into some parts of the survey when it is live, and I'll show you what I mean in a bit. Next up, what you can do is you can set up your preferred time zone. So this will affect when your survey email invitations is live. So just choose the time zone that is preferred. For today's purpose, I will just keep it as London. Next up, we've got your benchmarking settings. So when your survey results are out, we always strive to provide you with an external benchmark against other companies that are as similar to your organization as possible. So it's important that you choose a sector as well as the number of employees that best represents your current organization. And then lastly, we've got single sign-on, which is what you saw earlier. You can turn this on if you like to enable it. All right, so quite simple and easy, I hope, and quite straightforward as well. At the bottom here, you'll see that there is a prompt for you to save changes. So just click that once you're happy. And then you should be able to see you should be able to see a gray box that comes out over here that tells you that the changes have been updated successfully. So just something to be a bit mindful of whenever prompted to save changes, make sure you do that because there are some parts of the settings where it is saved automatically for you. All right. Next up, we have the languages settings. So this is for those of you who do have multi-languages enabled. Currently, we have, I believe, a total of 41 languages available, and we are in the process of always updating more languages into the system. So if you wish to enable this, just again, please feel free to reach out to your client success manager for assistance. Okay. Right. So moving on from your company settings, let's look into your people settings. So this is where we will start setting up your employees as well as their attributes. So who do you want to send a survey to and what sort of information you would like to capture for analysis when the results are out. So under the attribute settings, there are a couple of sections. We've got your demographics and we also have your departments. So under demographics, you will see that there are two preloaded demographic options already available on the system. So you have your date employed since, which looks at your employee's length of service. And then you have your date of birth, which is an employee's age group. So both of these come in a date format type, which basically will automatically group your employees into our existing bandings. For example, if you have an employee that joined on the 1st of January, say this year in 2024, they will be grouped into the less than 6 months banding for length of service. If they had joined in 1st January, let's say 2014, then they will be grouped under the 10 or more years banding for length of service. All right. Now you can add as many demographics as you want. We sometimes say the more the better, because it will allow you to have more insights on how employee experience and engagement can vary between the different demographic groups. Now to add demographic, and as you can see, I've already added some over here, but to add a demographic, all you want to do is to click the add demographic button and then put in the demographic name as well as the different options. So for example, maybe you want to have gender as a demographic. You can go ahead and put gender under the demographic name. And the options could be, let's say, male, and option 2 could be female. You can also click to add options. So you can add as many options as possible. So for example, maybe your third option would be prefer not to say in this case. And what you can also do on the side over here, you see some up and down arrows. So you can change the sequence as you see fit. This is purely optics. So the sequence that you've set on the system will be the same sequence you see on the results dashboard when the results are out. So again, you can change that as you see fit. You can also delete the options if needed. So once you're happy with that demographic, you can then go ahead and click add, and you will see it appear in your list over here. So again, quite straightforward. Similarly, with the overall view, you're able to edit the demographics. You can also change that sequence, again, purely optics reasons. And you can also delete demographic options as you wish. Okay, right. So once you're happy with your demographics, we can then move on to your department settings on the top right over here. So just click onto the departments tab. So this is where you can upload your reporting structure. Now, the easiest way to do this is to download a template which provides you with an Excel sheet where you can then populate your reporting structure. Over here, because it's a demo account, we've already pre-populated some department structure over here. But if it's your first time accessing the system, you should be able to see a download template button. So once you click onto it, and I've prepared an example ahead of time, what you want to do is basically break down your reporting structure as you would like to be able to slice and dice eventually on the system. So for example, you may want to start with your high-level departments as your level 1 under column A. So for example, maybe you have your finance department, your operations, business development and sales, HR, and so on and so forth as your level 1. And then level 2 would be the different teams that sit under that particular department. So maybe under your finance and legal, you got your finance and accounting, policy and audit, payroll, and so on and so forth. And then if you are able to break down even further, you can do that. So let's say maybe under your budget team, you have subunits of projection and also strategic resource planning teams, for example. So that is how you're able to break down the different levels. And depending on your structure, you may have more or less number of levels. Some organization may also break down the reporting structure by countries or regions. So this really depends on your current structure and how you like to be able to view the different results. So once you're happy with the reporting structure, you can then go ahead and save this file and upload the Excel onto the system, and then it will look a little something like this. So just as you've seen before, you're able to break the the departments to the different teams and the different teams into the different sub-teams or sub-units. Okay, so one other thing that you can do as well is that you can add departments at any point in time. So let's say you want to add a department called finance operations, for example. Right, once you're happy with that, just click add new department and you see that it will appear at the bottom of the list. Right. There you go, over here. And once you've done that, you can always edit where you would like that department to sit under. So you can see that there is this change parent of finance operations button over here. You can select the parent department. So let's say I want finance operations to sit under the finance accounting team under finance and legal. I can go ahead and click that and click save. Right. Apologies, I've already done it before. But yes, basically, I hope that gives you an idea of where it can be, how you can change the parent department. You can also move the sequence. So let's say you would prefer operations to go above finance and legal. Just click on this button over here. Click where that you want it to go above finance and legal. Click save. And as you can see, the sequence would have been changed. Operations now sit above finance and legal. Okay. If you wish to edit the department name, just click on the pencil icon here and change it accordingly. And you can also delete the department if needed by clicking on the delete button over here. Again, getting this right is very important because it, as I mentioned, it would determine how you're able to slice and dice the results of the survey when the survey closes. Once you're happy with both your demographics as well as your department settings, then you can then move on to your employee settings, which is where you can start uploading your employee data. Once again, the easiest way to do this is to download our existing template. So if you scroll to the bottom, you'll be able to see a download button. And what it will do is that it will provide you with an Excel sheet that basically auto-populates the attributes that you've already set up earlier as columns for you to fill. So for example, earlier we included gender, we had manager, job grade, office, date employed since the date of birth. So these were the demographic data that you've already included under attributes. So it should be preloaded onto your Excel sheet accordingly. I have also highlighted some columns in blue. These are your mandatory columns that you need to fill in order for us to be able to save the information. The greens are your demographic options. These are more optional. So if some employees do not have some of the information, you can just leave it blank. You will see that we also have an email column. So all our surveys are typically sent via email if the employee has an email address. But if, let's say, you do have cases where employees do not have any email address, you can leave it blank. And essentially what will happen is a kiosk code would be automatically generated on the system. Now, if you would like to use custom kiosk codes, that is something that we are also able to do. You can put it in accordingly. It just has to make sure that it fits the requirements of between 6 to 12 characters with a mix of numbers and alphabets. Some people prefer to use things like employee ID or date of birth as the kiosk code. So that is something that you can also consider. Now, you also see that we have a column called preferred language. Again, this is available for those of you who have multi-languages enabled. Now, you can either leave this blank, in which case employees are able to choose their preferred language before starting their survey. But if you already know in advance what their preferred language is and you wish to put that in, what you want to do is go to this tab under here on the bottom left called supported languages and select the language code for that particular language. So for example, if you want Spanish, just click copy and then paste it into this column over here, right? So once you're happy with your data, just save the file as you did before and re-upload it onto the system by clicking this, area over here. If there are no issues with the data, the information should be uploaded smoothly. However, sometimes there may be some minor errors with the data, in which case the system will prompt you and let you know what those errors are. So for example, it could be an invalid email or invalid option, for example. So just make those corrections accordingly and re-upload the the file into the system. But once again, if you have any troubles with this area, feel free to reach out to your client success manager for further support. Right, once you have successfully uploaded the employee data, you'll be able to see all the employee information as you're able to see here on the screen. From here, you can always search for an employee via their names or filter by departments, or you can also filter by their active or inactive status. Now, let's say I'm just interested in finding this particular employee. Just to note that the search bar is case sensitive. So just to make sure that when you input the name, you're aware of that as well. Now, from here, you can always edit an employee's information at any point in time. All you need to do is click on the three-dot button here and click edit. So you can edit their first name, the last name, the date of birth, and pretty much any information you see here on the screen. If you scroll down, you'll also see that there is this status toggle. So this is very useful for cases where employees might be on a long-term leave, like maternity or sick leave, where you would like to retain their information, but not send the survey to them. In cases like this, all you need to do is to toggle this to inactive, and they will not be sent a survey, and they will also not be included into your overall headcount as well. This basically helps ensure that you have a more accurate response rate when the survey goes live. All right. So once you're happy, just click edit, just click update. Now you can also add new employees by clicking the add employee button over here. This is good for cases where you have maybe just a handful of employees that you would like to add in. But if you are uploading employees in bulk, I would recommend downloading the template and re-uploading the data via the Excel file, as you saw earlier. Now, if an employee has left an organization, what you could do is, again, click on the three-dot button over here and just click delete, and that will remove them from the system as well as from your overall headcount. All right. Now, another thing that you might have noticed is that we do have checkboxes next to employees detail. Now, this is related to the life cycle surveys, which is currently only available for our premium clients. So I won't be going into too much details on life cycle today, but just to show you what this can do. Basically, when you click the checkbox next to the employee, you will see that at the top here, we have a send onboard survey and send exit survey options. And one good thing about the send exit surveys is that when you click on this, what it does is that it will send the exit survey automatically to the employee, but it will also remove the employee information automatically from the system so that they do not contribute to your overall headcount as well. Right, so once you're happy with your employee data, you can move on to access control. Over here, the first page you'll be able to see is the kiosk page. So as I mentioned earlier, our surveys are usually disseminated via email where employees receive a unique survey link in their inbox. However, if you have employees who do not have an email address, you can use our system kiosk code, as I mentioned earlier. Basically, instead of receiving their survey via an email invitation, employees can access the survey by entering the unique kiosk code via the generic link that you can see here on the screen. So you can share this generic link with them by copying and pasting, or some of our clients even turn this into a QR code and get their employees to scan the QR code to access the survey. So what they will need to do is to click on to access the link and put in their unique access code in order to complete the survey. So you can download the unique codes over here, but as I mentioned earlier, there's also an option to just create custom kiosk codes if preferred, especially if they already have a unique identifier like an employee ID, or you can use a mix of their date of birth as well as their initials. So that's something that you can also do. One thing to note is that you can share the unique codes however you see fit, but to share some of the things that our clients have done, most of them have disseminated the unique codes via the employees' line managers themselves. All right. Moving on, we've got the dashboard permissions. So this is where you can set up access to the results dashboard for your people leaders. So kindly note that this is only access to the results dashboard. They will not have access to the admin system that you're seeing now, and they will not have access to the employee data. So once again, you can upload the user data by downloading the template. So you can upload it in bulk, or you can just add new users manually like so. when adding a user, you will need to include their first name, their last name, their email, their departments, which determine what departments they will be able to see for the results dashboard, as well as their role. Now, you can customize the roles under the roles tab over here. Here, you can determine what a user can or cannot see on the results dashboard. So just to give you an example, let's say for the manager role, you like to set up the specific settings. So for example, you can select what survey they're able to access, what features they're able to access on the results dashboard. So whether it is the impact on engagement, whether they're able to see benchmark data, the comments, the analysis, and so on and so forth. You're able to determine what results, which departments they're able to view the results for, whether it's for all departments or whether it's a specific one under operations. It could be the whole of operations, or it could be a team within operations itself. You can also set what demographic data they're able to see, whether it's all demographics or whether it's a specific demographic. So for example, maybe you would like them to be able to see length of service as well as age group, but maybe not gender, manager, and so on and so forth. You're also able to set, whether you would like them to be able to view comments, and if they're only able to view comments for specific departments as well. Okay, so highly customizable, and really it's based on your organization's needs as well as requirements. Last but not least, we've got a notifications tab. So this is if you would like the people leaders that you've set up under the dashboard permissions, if you would like them to receive an automated email notification to view their team's result upon a survey closing, then just toggle this on and click Save Changes. All right. So that is all for the people settings side. Now let's move on to the slightly more fun bit where you get to build your actual survey. So I'll start first by going into survey settings. Now, the first thing you can do is that you're able to set up your survey frequency at the top over here. You will see the change frequency button. Just want to click onto that. Now we have different frequencies ranging from weekly to annually. There is really no right or wrong approach. We would recommend just assessing your organization's current needs before deciding the right frequency. So for example, some of our clients may have been running quarterly surveys for many years now. And so perhaps a lot of them tend to, after some time, reduce it to maybe biannual or annually. Now, selecting a frequency will also not limit the amount of surveys you run in a year. So for example, currently I've had it set to quarterly, but I can always run more or less in a year. Okay, so once you're happy with that, just click Yes, Change Frequency, and that will be saved accordingly. Next up, we've got the confidentiality threshold. Now, to protect employees' confidentiality, WorkBuzz only shows feedback for groups above a certain size. By default, the threshold for your closed questions is set to 10, and that set to 5, sorry, and that's also our minimum. And for open questions or comments, it's set to 10 by default, but it can go down to 5 minimum as well. We tend to encourage higher thresholds for open comments because it is easier to identify a person through open feedback than closed feedback. So you can also now base the confidentiality threshold on the number of completed surveys or the number of employees invited. So this is a relatively new feature that has been enabled for power users as well. Next up, we have the survey invite emails. So this is the time for when the email invitations will be sent out to employees based on the time zone that you set earlier. So for example, if you selected UK time, the invitations will be sent out to employees at 9 a.m. UK time on the date that you have set for the survey to go live. So to change the time, all you need to do is click onto it and you'll see that there's this clock that comes out. Click on your preferred time. It can be AM or PM. And then once you're happy with that, just click OK, right? And then we also have your summarized results as 3-point or 5-point. By default, it's at 3-point, but basically what this means is that when your survey results are out, it will be grouped to 3 points, which is positive, neutral, and negative. You can turn on the save and continue message. So this simply allows employees to save their survey progress and return to complete it at a later time if needed. And then last but not least, we've got your data aggregation. So this will determine how long your surveys stay on the system, including all your reports. This can go up to a maximum of 3 years. The reason for this is because we believe that anything longer than 3 years is probably not relevant to your organization for your employee engagement. So we do not keep anything more than 3 years. Okay. So once you're happy with that, once again, just click save and make sure you see that gray box to confirm that your changes have been saved successfully. Okay. Right, so once you're happy with that, let's move on to editing your survey. So when you click on live and scheduled surveys, now based on the frequency that you chose earlier, you will see the different numbers of preloaded survey templates. Now, because I chose quarterly before, you can see that there are 4 preloaded templates over here for me to use. One thing to note is that WorkBuzz automatically copies your survey over time, and this varies depending on the frequency you set. So, for example, if you have chosen an annual frequency, when your Pulse 1 closes, Pulse 2 will automatically appear on the system, and it will be an exact replica of your Pulse 1. Pulse 3 will be an exact replica of Pulse 2, and so on and so forth. Now, for my case over here, because I chose quarterly, when my Pulse 1 closes, it will be archived, and a new Pulse, which is Pulse 5, will automatically be populated onto the list over here. And Pulse 5 will be an exact replica of Pulse 1. Pulse 6 will be an exact replica of Pulse 2. 7 will be a replica of Pulse 3, and so on and so forth. Now, this is very helpful if you tend to run a particular survey for each quarter. But of course, you're free to customize each survey as you go on. Right. Now, moving on, let's start editing survey. So this is where I will walk you through on what sort of questions we have and how you can edit it, and the email survey invitations and so on and so forth. Right, first up, what you want to do is to select your preferred open date and close date. All you need to do is click on the calendar button here and select your preferred date, and then click your close date. Now, again, the length of survey really depends on your preference, but I would say that most of our organizations tend to run their survey for about 2 weeks or so. It's important to note that your survey goes live on the midnight of your open date, and it closes at 11:59 p.m. on your close date. So even though your email invitations might be set to go out at only, say, 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., you will not be able to edit the survey past midnight of the open date. So what this means is that, make sure that when setting up your survey, you have everything finalized at least 1 day before your open date. So once you're happy with the open and close date, don't forget to click save, and then we can move on to actually editing your survey. Right, so if this is your first time, you will be able to see some template questions already preloaded onto the system for you. A few things you can do on this page. First things first, you're able to add text. Now with the text, you're able to choose, font type, font size, the font color. If you want it to be a little bit more on brand, you can use your brand colors. You can make it bold, italicized, you can add bullet points and so on and so forth. A couple of reasons or ways our clients have used text is, well, number one, you can add things like an introductory message at the start of your survey, which is something most clients would do. Or you could also use text boxes to do things like providing definitions for certain terms, for example. For example, maybe you have a more complex manager system where you have line managers, exec team, senior leaders. So sometimes it's a little bit hard for employees to know how you define these different levels of leadership. So maybe you would like to add those definitions by using the text box. That's one good way of using. All right, so once you're ready, just click save. Next up, you can also add images onto your survey. Now, it's important to note that the images come in thumbnail sizes. So it's not a big image, it's just a small image. So it's more good for things like if you like to add a profile picture of, say, your CEO, for example, if you have an opening message for a CEO included in your survey, or you like to add in a logo and things like that. So more for smaller image type to be uploaded. Okay. Now, let's move on to how you can add questions and the different types of questions that you can add. Now, when you click add questions, you'll be able to see that we have 4 different types of questions. First, we've got your opinion questions, which are questions asked on a 5-point scale. This usually ranges from strongly agree to strongly disagree, but you can change this as you see fit, and I'll show you in a bit what I mean. We've got radio button questions. These are if you have multiple choice questions where only one response is needed. We've got checkbox questions, which are also multiple choice questions, but employees can select multiple choices. And then you have comment box, which is your open-ended questions. Right, so let's just start with an opinion type questions first. So let's say you're interested in a question on well-being, for example, and the question is, how would you rate your overall well-being? Right, once you're happy with that, select your category. So in this case, the most relevant category will be well-being. And as you can see, the options don't really respond to this question anymore. So you can edit as you see fit. So just make sure you start with the most positive term at the top and then leading to your least positive term. So in this case, it could be a case of excellent to good to poor, and then ending with maybe very poor. Right. Once you're happy with that, you can also add a not applicable option if you wish. And you can also mandate the question by clicking on the require the question checkbox. But we recommend doing this very sparingly because we find that they tend to be a higher dropout rates with surveys with too many mandated questions. Okay. So once you're happy with that, you can go ahead and click save. Right. And you should see it appear right here. Now you can also drag the question to change the sequence. So in this case, perhaps I want to group all my well-being questions into one place. So it could be over here. Now, next up, what I wanted to show you was also our logic settings. And this is this has proven to be quite useful to some of our the organizations that we work with. So logic, basically what it does is that it allows you to set a question to be shown based on answers to previous questions or to certain department groups or demographics. So let's say you've got questions that you would like to ask just for managers, for example. You can go ahead and click this checkbox and then click the demographic manager and then click the option yes. So then these questions will only be shown to those who are managers. Maybe you would like it to be shown only to female employees, for example. You can go ahead and click gender and click female, so that's an option. The other option, as I mentioned, is to show the question based on answers to previous questions. So, for example, maybe we wanted to have a follow-up question to the question we had earlier, which is how would you rate your overall well-being? Let's say if somebody had said poor or very poor, you may want to have a follow-up question that asks them, what sort of support can we provide you? So what support can we provide you? So once again, you probably want this to be a comments box question instead. So this is an open-ended question where they can give you qualitative feedback. So what support can we provide you? Click logic based on answers to previous question. Select the question that you included earlier. So in your case, it would be how would you rate your overall well-being? Now you can select it to be where the response is exactly equal to one of the following, or it could be, exactly equal to, or is one of the following. So in our case, we want it to be one of the following, so either poor or very poor, and then click save. Right, so now once you've saved it, you'll be able to see the question over here, and you can see that there's this little icon here that basically tells you that this question contains logic. Right, and I'll show you in a bit how it looks like when the survey goes live. Now, other things that you can do, as I mentioned earlier, besides your open-ended questions as well as your opinion questions, you also have your radio button questions. So radio button questions, again, is good for questions where you have multiple choices, but there's only one response needed. So for example, are you aware of our EAP? Yes or no? If you would like them to choose multiple options, for example, in this case, what well-being benefits would you like to see implemented? Then you can go ahead and put in as many options as you like, and you can also go into settings and limit the answers. So perhaps you want to limit the answers to 3 or 5, for example, just put that in accordingly. And basically, once the employee have selected 3, they will not be able to select anymore. So that is something you can do with checkbox. You can require the question as usual, and you can also add other questions as well. So basically, this allows employees to specify if there are other options that are not listed in the current options that you have already uploaded. Okay, right. Now, next up, I wanted to show you is the languages. So again, for those of you who have languages enabled, the languages that you have selected earlier would appear on the left of the screen over here. You can add the translated questions. So for example, if I'm interested in translating this question into Spanish, you can click on Spanish and then put in the Spanish translation for this particular question. You will see that there are already preloaded responses over here. This again is based on strongly agree to strongly agree to strongly disagree. But if you would like to change it, let's say to excellent, good to poor to very poor in Spanish, you can do so as well. And once you're happy with that, again, just click Save and Close. All right. Now, this is just one option to add questions into the system. There is another way to add question, and that is via our question library. So if you scroll back up and on the left tab over here, you see that there's a question library setting. Now, if you click onto that, you will be able to see some of the best practice template questions that you can use when building up your survey questions. And this is especially useful if this is your first time and you don't quite know where to start. These questions are curated by our people science team who have over 30 years of experience in employee engagement combined, and it covers a range of topics, as you can see, from diversity and inclusion to leadership to well-being and so on and so forth. So once again, let's say you're interested in the topic of well-being and you would like to add the question on my job gives me flexibility to meet the needs of both my work and personal life. So just click the add button, select the survey which you would like to add this question to. So in our case, it will be PALS 4, and then click Save. And then you will see that it will appear at the top of the screen. Just drag it and move it into the section that you would like it to appear. So I will move it over here, for example. Right. So that is the other way that you can also add questions. If you would like more templates or more questions, more examples, feel free to reach out to your client success manager, and they can provide those for you. Now, other things that you can do on the screen, as usual with the other screens, you can edit or delete the questions by clicking on the 3-dot button over here. You can move the questions as I've shown you already. You can also add pages if you would like to break up the questions into different segments or chunks as I've done on the screen over here. Now, next up, what I would like to do is to show you how the survey would look like. And you can do that by clicking on the preview survey button at the top right corner of the page. And then this will bring you to the preview link where this is how your respondents will be looking at the survey when it's live. So there are a few things you're able to see on the screen. Number one is your company logo, which is what you've put into your company settings. On the bottom left, you'll be able to see the You Are Anonymous link. So this basically brings respondents to our confidentiality promise if they wish to read more about it. On the top right of the screen, we have a few tools available. So we've got an accessibility mode for those who require it. So if you click onto it, then it will enable the accessibility mode. We've got a save and continue button. So again, this is for employees who would like to save and continue their progress later on. And we've also got the change language button, which allows employees to change the language of the survey to their preferred language if needed. Okay, and just to show you how the survey looks like. So maybe if I go onto the well-being section, which is the questions that we were working on earlier. So you've got your opinion questions, which comes from strongly agree to strongly disagree. So on a 5-point scale, this is how your radio button questions will look like. You got your checkbox questions over here. So as you can see, you can choose up to 3. Once you've selected 3, the others will be grayed out. If you want, if an employee wants to specify other options, they can click onto it and an open box will appear for them to type in. And just to show you how the logic question worked earlier, so the question on how would you rate your overall well-being. So if you select excellent or good, nothing happens. But if you select poor or very poor, as you can see, the follow-up question, which had a logic on it, which is what support can we provide you, will appear accordingly, and they can type in. All right. Okay, right. So this is the survey preview. Going back to the settings. Moving on, I would like to focus on the email invitation. So this is where you can edit the email subject and message that will be sent out to employees when the survey goes live. Now you can edit and customize the subject line as well as the email content as you see fit. The only thing you cannot change is the survey link for obvious reasons, because they will need the survey link to complete the survey. And something that we recommend for you to keep is the confidentiality promise as well, if you can. Now, kindly note that when a survey goes live, 2 reminders will be automatically set to go out. So one will go out 5 days after your survey launches and another 2 days before your survey closes. So this is automated on the system. You don't have to worry about it. If you scroll further down on this page, you will see that there is a send test email setting. So this is where you can send out a preview link, which you saw earlier, to your team members internally. It fulfills a couple of things. Number one, it allows you to view the survey from an employee point of view. But number 2, and more importantly, is that it will ensure that the whitelisting has been done correctly by your IT team and that you are able to receive the email from WorkBuzz without any issues. So once you're happy with the title and who you're sending it to, just click send test and you should receive, or their team members should receive the test email in their inbox accordingly. Moving back up, we'll see that there is an administration tab. So currently, because the survey is not live, it's not showing you anything, but I have prepared this in advance for you to have a quick look. So when the survey goes live, you'll see something a little bit like this under the administration page. You will see, number 1, the current response rate. So this is live. You'll be able to also download the breakdown by departments by clicking on this button over here. For all power users on your account, what will happen is that when the survey is live, they will receive a daily response rate report via the email at 10 a.m. Next up, we also have the delivery statistics. So this basically tells you how many of the email invitations have been delivered. You will see that there are 3 columns. You've got your pending, delivered, and undelivered. So delivered shows for those that have been successfully delivered. For pending, if you do see a number under this column, do not panic. It just basically tells you that there is a slight delay between the email server. So between the WorkBuzz email server and your employee email server. What you want to be paying attention on when the survey is live is your undelivered column, because this tells you the number of email invitations that actually bounce back and never reach the employee. Typically, this is due to a typo in the email address. So all you want to do when that happens is click on details. It would provide you with the list of emails that bounce back. Check the email address, make the corrections, and then resend the link from there. Now, sometimes there are cases where employee may accidentally delete their email, or they simply cannot find the email that was sent to them. So what you can do is you can go to this page, go down over here under resend survey invitation, click on the search bar and put in the employee's email address, and then just click resend from there. Right? So very useful tool for when the survey is live and if you have employees coming to you telling you that they are not able to access their survey. Right, so that's pretty much it for the engagement survey. Moving on, I'd like to be spending a bit more time on on-demand polls. This works very similarly with your engagement survey. The only difference that I'd like to highlight here is that your on-demand polls do not contribute to your overall engagement score. So that is the main difference over here. This is great for any sort of ad hoc surveys that you would like to run in between your engagement surveys. For example, it could be used to dive deeper into a specific area based on the feedback on your engagement survey. So let's say you saw that communication as a category was particularly low for one of your engagement survey, and you might want to dive a little bit deeper to understand, what could you do better as a company to provide, different communication channels to your employees or resources to your employees, or how in general can you improve communication culture for your organization. So that could be one option. It could also be used for things like an internal poll for employees to vote for their favorite pantry snacks, or maybe their preferred company Easter event or venue. So it really could be used for anything and really it's up to your organization. So in order to create an on-demand poll, just click on create new poll, put the survey name. So in this case, I'll just put survey X for now. And similarly, just choose, your preferred open date and the close date, right? So once you're happy with that, go on and click save. And it will bring you to this page over here. And as you can see, it will prompt you. It will ask you if you like to create a new poll, or if you have run a poll in the past that you would like to just copy, you can click copy a previous poll. For today's demo, I'll just click create a new poll. And as you can see, the screen is pretty much the same as what you saw in the engagement survey. So I won't spend too much time in going through everything because it works very similarly, but I just want to highlight some of the key differences. So first difference is that under questions, you will see that you are not required to put in any categories. So there are no categories for questions under on-demand polls. Next up, you'll see that we have an audience tab at the top over here. This allows you to set who you would like the survey to be sent out to, whether it is to all employees, to a specific department. Again, maybe it's a HR specific survey or a finance specific survey. And you can also set if you would like the survey to be sent out to a specific demographic. So for example, maybe you like to run an ad hoc survey in conjunction with International Women's Day that is sent out just to your female employees. Or perhaps you would like to run a leadership specific survey to just your manager population. So you can do so over here. Again, just to show you how it works, click on a specific demographic, click on manager, and then click on yes, and then click save once you're happy with that. Another difference is under the email invitations. So everything else works the same. The only difference is that instead of the reminders being sent out automatically, you can set when those reminders are. You can set when you want the reminders to be sent out, the date, as well as the time for when you would like the invitation, the reminders to be sent out to employees. Right, and that is pretty much it for the on-demand polls and for my presentation today. So we have about 10 more minutes to the time. So I just wanted to open the floor to Q&A, and if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button right now, and we can address your questions accordingly. Right, let me just put up my screen over here. Nope. Sorry, Haley, I'm having a bit of hard time to access the Q&A. Are there any questions that I can address?
No questions in there at the moment.
Okay, maybe give people a little bit more time. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A now. If not, please feel free to reach out to your client success manager as well following today's session.
So a couple of comments in there, Esther, for you. So thank you, Maureen, for saying great session. So thank you for the feedback.
Thank you, Maureen.
And then another question. So how does the engagement score get calculated for the reports?
Okay, great question. So for the engagement score, it is calculated based on our set of engagement questions. So let me just go back to the pulse over here. If I scroll down, you will see that we have 4 questions asked for that makes up our employee engagement score. It's based on our Say, Stay, and Strive model. Basically, what it measures is, your employees' emotional connection to the organization, how much are they willing to go the extra mile, and how loyal are they to the organization. So a few questions that we ask. Firstly is, I'm proud to work for ABC company. I would recommend the company as a great place to work. I see myself working here in 12 months time, even if a comparable job was available elsewhere, as well as I am motivated to do my best work. So Your engagement score will be an average of these 4 questions over here that is asked to your employees. Right, I see that Lindsay has a question on, we have a US arm to our company. Can they use WorkBuzz under the same account? Yes, if they are included as part of your current contract with WorkBuzz, that's no problem.
On that one, Lindsay, it might be worth reaching out to your client success manager or to support@workbuzz.com, and we can help you with that one if it's not something that's already set up.
Thanks, Haley. Great question. No, thank you, Lindsay. Any other questions? Right.
I think we're all good to wrap up.
We're good to wrap up. Great. So let me just reshare my slides over here. Give me a second. Right. Share this in full screen. All right, so thank you everyone for joining today's session. I hope that was helpful. Following today's session, what will happen is that we'll send across the recording of this webinar over email, so look out for that, along with some links to some of the resources that we already have designed to help you with every step that we've covered today. All right, so thank you everyone for joining, and really appreciate the questions as well as the feedback. Okay. Have a good week, everyone. Bye.